to be here today with the Lieutenant Governor and Representative Cabral to talk about what I think will be a fantastic project, and that's the conversion of Custom House Square into an urban park. And before I begin, let me just give thanks to where it is due, and that's once again to the Patrick Murray administration, which has been great friends to the city of New Bedford. It's not news to anybody in the New Bedford area that over the last 20 or 30 years, we haven't gotten the attention that, frankly, we deserve. I think there's a consensus about that. Attention from the State House in Boston. And what really distinguishes the current administration, in my mind, is that not only is there, an openness to working with the city of New Bedford on the part of both the Lieutenant Governor and the Governor, but a real commitment to this area. A commitment not just because this area may be seen as politically advantageous, but a real recognition that we've got good stuff going on here, and that with a little bit of state support we can really accelerate our progress and spur private sector investment and really make some headway. And that's what's happening right now, and this project is part of it. One thing I also wanted to note up front is that the really big project that's going on right now in our city, the South Terminal project, is moving along swiftly because we are working in close tandem, hand in glove with the Patrick Murray administration. We've made some real progress in the last few months. The last time the Lieutenant Governor was down here, we met at the Celtic Coffee House and talked about ways in which we could really jumpstart the project. And from that meeting on, the project has really taken off, and we've worked extremely well with Lieutenant Governor Murray, with Governor Patrick, with Secretary Rick Sullivan of Environmental Affairs, and we're getting there. I'll talk about other members of the team in a moment. The City Council and Representative Cabral and the state delegation have done enormous work in that regard as well. But we have good partners, great partners in the Patrick Murray administration, and you're seeing some more of it play out here today. Let me talk for a moment about the idea here. I used to commute to Boston. I don't miss that commute one bit, especially in the summertime. But one of the things that I thought about for a number of years was, wouldn't it be great if New Bedford had something like Post Office Square, a central gathering place where people, that is framed well by the buildings around it, where people could come and have a lunch, spend some time just breathing in the fresh air, kind of like on a day like this. If you've ever been through Boston or Post Office Square in the middle of the workday, you'll see droves of people just hanging out and just enjoying a little respite from the work world. And that's what we want here. I think this space, as you look around, is very well proportioned, very well framed within the historic district. Along the cobblestone streets, I mean, it's the right size, it's the right fit for an urban park. And so, as soon as I took office, I set in motion some plans, really an idea that we could turn this in not just to green space. We're not just going to, knock off or plow over the asphalt here and plant grass. We want it to be very engaging and something new and something unique to New Bedford. And so those plans are underway. It's going to cost us some money, and of course, we don't have money doesn't grow on trees here in New Bedford. So we are assisted by a state grant in the amount of $300,000 to an urban parks grant that will enable us, with the hard work of our city employees at the Department of Public Infrastructure and Department of Public Facilities, to convert this into something that we're all going to be very proud of in the coming years. And so, again, this is a program that that requires a real partnership between the state and local government, and one a partnership that this administration, the Patrick Murray administration, really appreciates and is committed to, and they're going to make it possible for us to do something really special here. I'll hasten to note, by the way, that we're at a point now where we've done some preliminary drawings. I've enlisted the help of my long-term friend Chris Reed, a New Bedford resident who's gone on to big things in the world of landscape architecture, has worked on the Clinton Library down in Little Rock, has done a number of buildings at Harvard University and other places. He's a world-class landscape architect who happens to be here from New Bedford, and who has been willing to do the design of this park for free for his hometown. We couldn't afford to pay him if he wanted to charge us, but what we're going to get is world-class design at the right price. And so I'm pleased that his firm is going to be represented today in this speaking program. But so we're going to have a design that's great. We're going to do it in a way that's going to conserve parking spaces. We're going to lose some parking here. The parking lot itself is underutilized, but businesses still rely on it. So to the extent that it is consistently utilized, we're going to find parking around the neighborhood that's going to accommodate businesses, so that nobody's inconvenienced by the change. There are festivals here that are real good shots in the arm to businesses downtown. We're going to make sure that we have some space here that continues to allow the space to be, this park to be used as a festival site. So those are all things that are going to be in the works. And I think at the end of the day, when we actually have a proposal to show to the public to get their input, people will be pleased with what they see. That's coming up probably in the next month or so. With that, let me turn the microphone over to Lieutenant Governor Murray, who has, as I said before, been a great friend of New Bedford, and is a former mayor. He recognizes the need for a real state commitment to a city like ours, and how that commitment can pay off in big ways and spur other investment. And it's just a pleasure to work with the guy. I think he's done a fantastic job as Lieutenant Governor, and we're pleased that we've gotten all the support we have from him. So, Lieutenant Governor Murray, would you say a couple of words?
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Mayor Mitchell. And I think it was just a few weeks after his inaugural, we had a chance to have a coffee at the Celtic Coffee House, and we went over some of his priorities. And let me just say another item off the inaugural speech punch list for the mayor. We've been working, as he mentioned, in a very focused manner with the city administration, with the delegation, and our administration on South Terminal, because we believe that's a continuation of our strategic investments in the port of New Bedford, and including Fairhaven, and the terminal, we think, has a huge upside in terms of creating jobs now and in the future for residents of New Bedford and South Coast. And that's just one example. I was with my family on Acushnet Avenue the other day, and we had lunch at Elizabeth's, and that work is underway. $3 to $5 million on the beautification and the streets program to support the neighborhood investment there. We've, as I mentioned, put money into various aspects of the port, working as well on a variety of fronts here in New Bedford, because our administration, Governor Patrick, and our team believes our gateway cities are key to the state's economic success. They are gateway cities. They drive regional economies. They are tourist destinations. They are educational hubs. They are healthcare hubs. People come for arts, culture, and the creative economy, and there's so much. And New Bedford has a history too. And as the mayor talked about, you can't recreate this type of architecture, this history. You just can't. And so what we are working through our Gateway Cities agenda is to find ways, through limited strategic investment, to unleash private sector growth and job creation. And it has been great to work with the city of New Bedford, because there's a vision, there's a team effort, and that is epitomized through the legislative delegation, who works pretty regularly and hard on pushing all things New Bedford. Now, the Gateway Cities agenda, it's multifaceted, it's educational, it's investment in infrastructure, but it's also recognizing that in our cities, and in all of our cities and towns, that open space, our parks play a key role. And since the time that we've been in office, we have worked to maintain parks in urban neighborhoods in our cities, to provide open space and conservation opportunities, working farms and forests. And since taking office, we've made investments of $230 million in land conservation. As I said, that's focused in 3 areas: urban parks, preserving working farms and forests, and protecting large natural habitat landscapes. We've conserved over 100,000 acres, and we have restored over 160 parks across Massachusetts. These parks in our cities primarily have an estimated 1 million new park visits per year, because we know when we invest in these parks, for many families, it's the closest they're going to have to a vacation. For others, it is about quality of life. For businesses, when they have access to this open space, it brings people down and then creates a situation where people are spending money and want to be a part of it. And that is exactly what the mayor talked about in the vision here in New Bedford with the Custom House Square project and the park. One of my first visits as a candidate for Lieutenant Governor back in 2006 was when the Central Street Folk Festival, I think it was called then, was going on. Walking down the street and seeing it alive, packed with people, art out in the street. This is something that we believe can help make happen almost on a daily, weekly basis by activating this park, not just when there's a festival, but by having people come and visit and relax, and that will create an atmosphere that will again be a magnet for more investment and more people. $300,000 Gateway Cities Parks grant. It will fund the design, construction, and documents for the project and purchase new materials for it. It's scheduled to be designed and built by the end of June of 2013. So I look forward to being back next year where this is alive and activating and really getting people excited. With the housing market, you know, we know that this will help as well. Facilitate more private sector investment, which is all about. This is about leveraging strategic investments. There's no place that we've enjoyed working more than the city of New Bedford. A lot of great things to come, and this is just another milestone that we mark today. And let me just say, we have been blessed to work with a good team, as I mentioned, in the legislature. Representative Cabral, Representative Markey is here as well. They, as I said, have been very persistent in any opportunity they get to make the case for New Bedford and for the region, and they've been a pleasure to work with.
There's someone else I'd like to, from the administration, I'd like to ask come up and say a couple of words, and that's the Undersecretary of Environmental Affairs, Phil Griffith. Phil and Secretary Rick Sullivan also have been terrific partners to New Bedford. And as I said before, it's great to be able to pick up the phone and have a receptive audience in state government who recognize that we're trying to move the ball down the field here in a very concerted and determined way. So let me call Phil up to share his thoughts about the park and the grant that they have been generous enough to issue to the city of New Bedford.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, Governor, representatives. Good morning. It's our pleasure at the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs to be able to implement the Patrick Murray administration's extraordinary commitment to landscape preservation, open space, and particularly urban park renovation. I know that Secretary Sullivan is particularly proud of those creative new programs we've developed that allow us to work with every community in the Commonwealth to make sure that everyone has a chance to participate in that extraordinary commitment on behalf of the administration. We've worked with rural communities to make sure that they have technical assistance to get access to our land conservation programs. We've worked at a large scale across multiple communities to make sure we can preserve those large scale landscapes that are part of our natural heritage. And we've also worked very closely, and I know Secretary Sullivan's particularly proud of the work we've done here in the Gateway City Parks program. As Lieutenant Governor said, the Gateway Initiative stretches across all parts of the administration, and we're able to deliver on our part of that project, which is really to help renovate urban downtown areas to create those park spaces that communities thrive upon. And we're very proud of that effort here and the work that's going to happen with this project here in New Bedford. The Gateway City Parks program particularly was designed to help the 24 gateway cities with all stages of park development. Some of our previously existing programs didn't quite fit what you needed to do in places like this. So through the Gateway City Parks program, we've been able to help fund things like technical assistance, design work with the community, so you can go out and do meetings with folks to make sure the park is designed the right way, site assessment for contamination issues, all those sorts of things. That doesn't apply here, but we've used that this creative program to do the things that we weren't able to do with some of our parks programs before. And particularly in this case, a new model, which we didn't do before, which is where we're able to provide materials and some funds and then work with the city so that actually city staff can build the actual project. That's a model that we pioneered here in New Bedford with our work in the Wings Court just across the way here, which I think looks terrific. We walked through there this morning. It's a great project, and we hope that this project here will look just as nice when it's done. By the end of this year, we will have built parks in 17 of the 24 gateway cities. We've got 5 more that are in design, 5 more that are in the selection process, so that by the end of the Patrick Murray administration, we'll be able to say that we have built or renovated an important urban park in every one of those 24 gateway cities. We're thrilled to be able to say that. It's a commitment that we made a long time ago, and we look forward to continuing to work with the City of New Bedford to make this one a reality. I'd be remiss if I didn't point out the one person who makes a lot of this happen from our staff at EEA, and that's Kurt Gartner, who is the director of our Gateway City Parks program, who's been integral to making those 17 parks happen so far, and by the end of 2015, we'll have done it in all 24 parks. Mr. Mayor, we look forward to working with your staff to make this one a great record as well.
Great, thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, I'm going to ask Representative Tony Cabral to come up and speak, and let me just say thanks to Tony for his support of not only this grant program but also something that's happened really in the last week, and that is last night the House of Representatives approved a bill that would enable the city and the state to switch out properties in the south end of New Bedford, exchange one for another, that will enable the South Terminal project to go through. Mark Montigny did his work on the Senate side, and I just want to say today that both Mark and Tony really had to do some legislative jujitsu to get this done. It wasn't easy, and it really is really a testament to how my administration, the governor's administration, and the legislative delegation are working in lockstep to move the South Terminal ball down the field. So I really appreciate the work that Tony Cabral has done, especially in the last week. And it helps that we're next door neighbors. It facilitates communication. We can, as we did it this past week, and we talked over the fence about the South Terminal legislation, and he was able to get it done this week. So we really appreciate that hard work. Tony.
Thank you, Mayor Mitchell. For me, I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for those nice words about the South Terminal. As you all know, that's an important project to all of us, and we're not done yet. It's only the beginning. I think we have lots more to do there, not to mention additional funding that we need to get, but I think we're going to be successful on that as well. Today, this is really a highlight of Gateway City's Urban Parks program. I think it's a combination of this administration, Patrick and Murray administration, working with the legislature to really create programs, grant programs that really make a difference in our community. Secretary Sullivan, as you know, is also a former mayor, and he certainly understands what communities need, how cities, the kind of things cities need, especially there in the setting of downtown and other parts of the city. And that's nice to have those kinds of folks in the administration, such as the Lieutenant Governor, also a former mayor of Worcester, understands that very well. So it's nice to have that kind of working relationship with folks really who understand what we need in cities like New Bedford. So it's been wonderful. As you all know, If you don't, you will know today. I am the chair of the Gateway Cities Caucus in the legislature, and we've been working very closely with the administration, both with Secretary Sullivan on programs of nature, also with Secretary Bialaki on economic development. And I think if you look at the list of the things that we've been able to bring and the kinds of funds we've been able to bring in the last 6-7 years to the city, I think the notion that we have forgotten probably will go away very shortly, because we've been working and fighting every day, both on the House side and Senator Montigny as well on the Senate side. And I want to say Senator Montigny could not be here today, but he was very helpful as well on this particular project. So it's nice to see a resemblance of potentially on this Customer House Square, making similarities to the Post Office Square in Boston. There's only one big difference. We're not going to have a parking garage on the ground. But because of ledge, I understand there's a big ledge here, and that would be $300,000 would not be able to get, not even to begin that process. But in any event, I think it's a great concept. It's one that I've always supported, creating green spaces in areas of the city that are to make it more livable, more pleasurable, and also to create the kind of infrastructure that attracts people to the city, enriches those of us who live in the city and all the neighborhoods in the city, attracts investment to the city, and these sort of things that, such as the remake of this square will actually do. As my dad used to say all the time, it's the little things. Sometimes it either makes you or breaks you. So I think this might be really a little thing for some people, but in the end, in the scale of things, is actually the kind of things that we need to do to really transform and change the city for all of us who live here, to be a better place for all of us. So thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you for those kind words.
Let me, while I'm at it, acknowledge Chris Markey's efforts on the South Terminal team, as well as Representative Bob Kazera, Paul Schmidt, and Bill Strauss. A real team effort to make that happen. Let me also acknowledge too that, as I mentioned before, Chris Reed from New Bedford, the landscape architect, is working hard on plans right now, and I wish we had those plans in place right now. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, we need to tweak them a little bit before we prepare to show them to the public. But I can tell you, at least preliminarily, they're very exciting. And if you have any questions today, Eric Prince, who works for Chris Reed, has brought some sketches of Post Office Square, so you have a sense of what the green space in Boston looks like if you're not already familiar with it. The green space in that part of Boston, and how people really do like to recreate there and just have a little bit of a break in the hectic workaday world in downtown Boston. One of the things that's very important to me, as I'm sure it is to everybody here who cares about the historic district, is that while we want to have something that's unique and a real signature New Bedford design, we want it to be in keeping with the history of this place. And we're standing right here, for instance, at the site of the recruiting station for the 54th Massachusetts Infantry. This is hallowed ground, really, in New Bedford. And so we want to make sure that the design is consistent with the history, and if anything, exalts the history of the place. And so it has been one of the players in the design of the project has been our Park Superintendent, National Park Superintendent, Jen Nocessian, who's been a big supporter, and I'd just like to ask Jen to say a few words about her thoughts about the project. Jen.
Custom House Square is right in the heart of New Bedford Whaling National Historical Park, and itself is the epicenter of a really significant part of our national history. Right here is where the men from the 54th Regiment first lined up to enlist in what was one of the first all-black regiments of the Civil War. Today, it's right in the hub of where visitors from all over the world come to learn about our history, see our architecture, to walk our cobblestone streets. And we applaud the city's vision in looking to turn this space into a public park. where those same visitors, as well as our own local residents, will have the opportunity to sit and contemplate their surroundings, to eat lunch, to congregate, and to celebrate. It's a space that's currently lacking in our historic downtown, and one that could be a vital part of the visitor experience. In the National Park Service, maintaining that high-quality experience is part of our job. But we also realize that in the context of a city, it's an important economic driver as well. And we hope that with this new transformed space, the word will just continue to spread about all that New Bedford has to offer. We join the city in thanking the state for your generous support, and we're looking forward to working with you and all of the community and helping to plan, design, and build the best park for New Bedford. You know, while I'm standing here talking, I realize that you're all looking back on the parking lot here, on what we're talking about transforming. But while we're standing here looking out at all of you, we're looking at trees and bluestone and the trickling fountain, seeing the morning doves go by. It's a completely different experience, and one that our visitors and our city deserve. So, thank you.
Before I announce our last speakers, one other person whose consistent commitment to New Bedford ought to be acknowledged, and that is Kurt Gerdner from Secretary Rick Sullivan's office. Kurt's been a consistent advocate for projects here in the city, Wings Court most recently, but others as well. And Kurt, we really appreciate your commitment to the city most of all, but also your recognition that you know, when we and the state work together toward common goals, we can get an awful lot done. So thank you for all you do, Kurt. Last, I want to introduce someone who I think will benefit from this park and from the continued revitalization of downtown. He has played a big part in the revitalization of downtown and taking risk with his own money and his own time and his own energy to build some terrific businesses here, like Rose Alley and Paisan's Pizza, and now Cork. And that's Jay Lanigan, who has been a real visionary in the downtown area and who is a real leader in helping us revitalize this area, which is really not just the center of New Bedford, but the center of greater New Bedford. I mean, this is the epicenter for an entire region, and Jay is playing a very big part in it. And I asked Jay today to share his thoughts from a business person's perspective about this project. So Jay, would you come on up?
Well, first off, I'd like to thank the mayor, Lieutenant Governor, and the Economic Development Council. I see Matt Morrissey and Derek Santos out there who have been really an important part in helping us, you know, get a lot of these projects to the finish line and then to operate them in a manner that's, you know, profitable and successful, even under, you know, some duress and construction and those types of things. But from a business person's perspective and from a resident, for the past 10 years, we've watched downtown change in many ways. We've organized events like the Oktoberfest. We're now involved with Wales Wine Festival, and we're under construction in a major way down on Route 18. And we understand those temporary inconveniences of construction can be somewhat a damper on business or inconvenient to our customers. But at the same time, you know, New Bedford is still accessible. You know, we still see people coming in. They still find ways to find parking and do those kinds of things. And this is just one more example of New Bedford's commitment to changing downtown New Bedford into making it a place that's comparable to some other cities. But you know, this particular project and this particular initiative is one thing that really does change the dynamic of downtown for the people that live here, that visit here, that work here. It makes it unique, and it gives people another gathering place to spend their time. And it's not just looking at the buildings from inside of a restaurant or from inside of a museum. It gives people an opportunity for free, you know, to enjoy downtown New Bedford. So, you know, we can't help but take notice to projects like Wings Court or this particular project or the Route 18 project because they really do change the dynamic of the city and make them attractive to people that may visit here or may want to visit here. It gives us a unique marketing opportunity from a business perspective as well as a real estate sales perspective. So, you know, from a resident and from a business owner in downtown New Bedford, this seems like a clear home run. Parking is one thing that everybody talks about at this stage of development, and I can tell you there's plenty of parking in downtown New Bedford. There's underutilized parking garages, there's spaces that you haven't even thought of, and maybe most importantly, you know, the business sector will figure out a way to supply that demand of parking if that does become an issue. So, you know, on behalf of, you know, the Rose Alley Ale House, Cork Wine and Tapas, and Paisans Pizza, you know, we'd like to thank the city, the Lieutenant Governor, and the Economic Development Council. Thank you.
Well, I invite everybody up to take a look at the Post Office Square photographs so they can get start to get a sense of the look that we're trying to achieve here, although I'll hasten to add that we don't want to be exactly like this. What Jay says is very true. What we want to build on is our uniqueness. So people come here and feel like they're in some different place where they've never been, and that will, that uniqueness, that novelty will really build on itself. And so I appreciate everybody's coming out here today. This is an exciting project. This is something that I hope people will be proud of in the long run, and once again, we really appreciate the state's help in making it happen. Thank you very much.
What we do to the planet, we do to ourselves. You can help keep America beautiful. Visit KAB.org.